So when Ginger came to me, so Ginger had a coaching program that she was in, already delivering, and it was, running in her program. And we're going to essentially ask you all about this, Ginger, but she came to me wanting to have a second pair of eyes on it so that, somebody with like a course creation background could go through it and give her some feedback. And so basically out of that, we ended up kind of overhauling it. And then after that, I helped her launch it again. And I wanted to kind of go through the entire journey. So
Awesome.
maybe we can just start with like, first question is like, why? Why did you want to redo your program? Like you were already delivering it, you already had students in it. So what was that inspired by?
That was inspired by a couple things. One, I have lifetime access to my program, and I truly believe that that should mean something. Like there needs to be improvements. When we have lifetime access to something, it needs to be improved. I don't want it, a year from now to be exactly like it was. As, my strategies improve, I improve that in what I deliver my students. As Instagram makes changes every week,
Yeah.
things need to be updated and changed. Also, I have a background in training,
Yeah.
but when I trained adults, I didn't create the curriculum. I mean, I edited and, made adjustments and things like that, but it's a different thing to teach on Instagram, make posts about, short form content about a topic than it is to create an entire structured course that flows together. And as we went through in the beginning, when you did the review of my course, it was like, yeah, it's good, there's a lot of things, there's a lot of benefit, there's a lot of things, but the flow was not optimal for a fantastic learning experience. And that's really what I wanted, was that learning experience, the good flow, for my students to have, not just, yes, here's all the material that you need to learn, but have it in a format and in a structure that everything flows from one thing to the next. You learn this, and you have been fantastic with that, just like making sure to keep me in line and keep me on point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome. Like, so just for the record, it Ginger has a really big program. And this is like something like when I saw her program, I was like, holy cow, there's so much value in here. Like I'm actually quite lucky because being a course creator and like helping other people write courses, I get like an inside world into their expertise. So I have like learned from the queen now on how to do Instagram, but I was just like, I could feel that like it just like there was so much room that we could like just like knock this out of the park, right? With this much value, I was like, we can make a lot of improvements here. So, but it was a big undertaking. So, and by the way, if anybody has any questions, like just drop them here. Just if you have like a specific question for me or for Ginger, like we can answer them. But I'm just curious, like, did you know it was going to be like this big of an overhaul? Like, how has that been for you?
I kind of figured that it would, just because, I built it over the span of 3 years.
Yeah.
It took me, you
Yeah.
know, I built, I'd see a need and I would build that lesson and that module out. So I kind of knew that everything would have to be, just completely looked at all over again in order to make that flow make sense, for one lesson to move into the next, and for it not to be just like, yeah, you're learning this, but then over here, the next part of that is over here, and you kind of need to jump ahead and go back and this and that. So I knew that the overhaul would be a pretty substantial project, and it has been. I mean, we have been at this for quite a long time. We're still not
We're
100%.
almost finished. We're almost finished. I promise. I promise.
We're getting very close.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think one thing that's important to mention is, and this is for anybody that has a course or coaching program, and it's what Ginger's talking about is so normal, is that you like she started her program 3 years ago, and over those span of 3 years, she's been systematically kind of updating things, adding things, and then what happens at the end of those 3 years is you end up with kind of a disjointed journey. And
Yeah.
it's not on purpose, right? It just happens because it's been a while since we kind of like started from scratch. So when you like look at it and it's been in progress and kind of like what's the word, evolving over three
Evolving.
years
Yeah.
yeah, it starts to get a little disjointed because the intention at the very beginning doesn't resemble the very end product.
Yeah.
And so this is a very common thing. And so this is why looking at your course, even after every year, or I would suggest, every year you do like small updates, but every couple years or 3 years, you kind of like look at it from like a very big macro viewpoint and go back to like, because your learners change too, your audience changes, your expertise has changed, like you've leveled up immensely in so many ways, and like looking back at who are you serving, what's the goal here, is this being achieved, in a very structured way, or is it kind of like a jigsaw puzzle, right? So very, very normal.
That's
So
exactly, that's
yeah.
exactly, that's
Oh,
like the best advice because it's perfect. That's exactly what I had to do was to, it, just like you said, my learning evolved. I'm constantly learning. I've taken other courses myself. As I learn things and better ways to do things, I'm going to put that into my own program, as far as, this is a better way to create content, or this is a better way to think about this type of thing. So yeah, absolutely. I love that
yeah,
advice.
yeah. So the next thing I kind of wanted to, because just so everybody knows, Ginger has, many of you probably already know this, that she relaunched her course. So it's getting dripped out in a kind of monthly basis. So we're almost finished writing it or redoing it, but she's also in the middle of delivering it in a kind of dripped out fashion. So yeah, so she decided to ask me to help her launch it, which was another project. So I was the one thing that I was kind of like curious to hear from you about, and maybe like other people have questions, is like why, like you already had a successful program, you had results, you had people in the program already. Now you have a kind of updated version, much more updated. Like why relaunch it? Why not just casually, you know, open all the time, accept students all the time? Why relaunch it?
Well, there were a few reasons for that. One, I had never done a proper launch. From the very beginning, I started out with one-on-one students, and then I took the one-on-one to one-to-many, that structure. And I mean, it was good, it was fine, but I wanted to know what a full launch entailed, like
Mm-hmm.
what all of it, you see things and you do things, but just like anything else, if you don't do it yourself, you don't really understand what you're doing. You don't really get it, like, to the detail that you need to understand it. So I wanted to have the experience so that I had it. Um, I also wanted, with this big of a project, I mean, this, obviously we've been working on it since July. I also wanted it to get the kind of attention that I felt like it deserved, with you and I
Yeah.
working on it so hard, and like, hey, this is a big thing. We did put a lot of work into this. This is not just a, hey, I thought up an idea for a course and here it is kind of thing. I wanted it to reflect the amount of effort that went into the program itself. So that was like my second, like, big reason for wanting to do a
Yeah.
launch, like a full launch, rather than just an evergreen kind of it's always up for sale kind of thing.
Yeah.
And then as you and I talked, I guess the third thing would be, as you and I talked, having that structure of like even doing monthly like little mini launches works out when more people start at the same time, everybody's on the same page, and it does make sense. It's things like that that you and I talked about that things started clicking, and oh, right, then, everybody's right here. Then they're all going to learn cumulatively. That word's so hard to say. Cumul. I'm not going to say it again. I got it out once. They're going to learn together as a group
Yeah.
where they need to be. I think that that's also beneficial for students in a program to be able to do that, because then they're not feeling behind, feeling like, oh, well, she's been here forever, or a month longer than me, or 2 weeks longer than me, that sort of thing. So, even though it is still a little staggered, people will have other people that in the community, in the space with them, that they feel comfortable with because they're at the same level as them.
Yeah. Absolutely. I agree. And I like we talked about this, but for particularly for a new program that it's pretty different now. I mean, the content is there, but it's been redone. So it's a good idea to run people through like a group of people at one time to see how it lands and like really get a full sense of like the success of the program, right?
Right.
Because when you've got a bunch of people getting like amazing results, all at the same time, it just like as a reflection of like, okay, this is like a program that works,
Right.
opposed to having like staggered people kind of here and there, and you're like not able to track like, what's going on. Like, are people like going through the curriculum and everyone's kind of at a different place? For a new program, it's more challenging that way, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So how was the process for you
The launch
launching?
process. Are you asking about the launch process?
Yeah.
um, it was intense. I truly, like I have had friends over the years that have said, I just went through a launch. I can't even think right now. I'm just, because I'll ask them a question or ask them if they want to go live or do a collaboration or something. And like right during or after a launch, and they're like, oh, I'm going through a launch. My brain just can't handle it right now, the capacity. I understand what they were saying, and I apologize to all of those people profusely for asking anything out of them because it's intense. There's a lot to it.
Yeah.
I mean, it's staying on track, and you were great at keeping me on track, and did you do this and did you do that, and you were on top of me, which was fantastic because it was the first time that I had done it. So obviously, I wasn't, I mean, I knew what to do, but I wasn't like on top of it as well as you were from an outsider looking in and keeping me on track. So that was fantastic. But yeah, it was good. It was a great learning experience. Um, so
So
I'll do it
what
again.
so
I'll
what
do
was
it
yeah,
again.
so I was gonna ask you, like, what was your kind of so I'm kind of curious, like, what did you find the most challenging opposed to like what did you find kind of easy or fun and enjoyable?
So the most challenging thing was obvious. Well, for me as an introvert, is going to be getting on camera as much as
Mhm.
you really need to when you are going through, like not just getting on camera, but like getting on stories, and not just on your feed, but everywhere, getting on
Yes.
camera and getting, out there, all of that. For me, now, not that's not going to be for everybody, but for me, that was the most challenging
Yeah.
thing, just because that I hide behind the screen as much as possible. So to get on camera constantly like that was definitely the most challenging thing. Now, as far as what I liked, again, it was learning the process. It was the content
Yeah.
difference. To focus on. I've always, well, I've dabbled with theme weeks before, but I hadn't done like a theme week that way, where it was like 1 week is inspired content and 1 week this type of content, where I did it that way. So it was interesting to me to see how my audience reacted, how my community reacted to a whole week of educating content, a whole week of content to relate with them, a whole week of content to inspire them. And it showed me, it taught me different things about myself and my content strategy. It helped
Mm,
me like understand um different areas that I can improve in different areas like that. Like I tend, I mean, you were fussing at me, not fussing, but getting on to me a little bit about how much I post educational content, and I do. That is my favorite type of content. I love educating. So it taught me a lot about different types of content to stay away from, educating a little bit but still inspire, and how my audience will react to that. So it was good. I really enjoyed that part. It was the learning and the reactions. And they say to experiment and test, and it's true. When you do that, it's not just that you might get different results from your audience, it's that you learn a lot about yourself in the process. So that was fun. I really enjoyed that part of it.
awesome. Yeah. Yeah. So in case anybody wants to know why, I'm happy to share this, like that's fine, about educational content. Like, not that it's a bad thing at all, because I do educational content and I like everybody does that. But particularly when we are in launch mode, not necessarily when we're opening the doors. Well, yes, when we're opening the doors, but just that whole period, which is about 4 weeks, there's various ways that we can warm up our audience. One way is educating them. There's other ways. But if we focus just on educating and providing so much value for the entire launch process, then sometimes once it gets to the open cart and you're selling, people are like, whoa, like I thought I was getting stuff for free here, right? Like now you want me to buy. So we have to kind of lean into getting people ready to buy, not just absorb free content from you for eons, right? And
Right.
this is a challenge for many people, and it's something that just takes practice, right? It's about training the audience to understand that, okay, yes, like I do offer a lot of free value, but I also have some programs to share with you that I would love to have you join us, right? And getting into more of that preparing them to buy mentality, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, okay. And I just wanted to bring up one more thing is what, because I remember you had said to me one thing that was surprising was you had a brand new person that you'd never met before. Um, I can't remember what you said, but like she purchased the program and you're like, I don't even know who this person is. They just came out of nowhere.
That
So yeah.
that was my whole goal with like a bunch of other changes that we made, with pricing, with how I structured my sales page, with everything, was that I wanted to see about attracting a student that didn't want a sales call, didn't want to go back and forth on DMs or anything like that, just to see if they would sign up. And she did. I never saw her engage on my content. I never saw her in my DMs. I never had a sales call with her. I don't even I She must have just gone directly to my sales page and signed up from there. So that
Yay.
happened. And yeah, that was, it's like one of those little things where you're like, we're always pushing ourselves as an entrepreneur. Like, what can I do? What changes can I make to make things more streamlined or seamless or easier for people to make a decision on me without all of these other things? And that's what I wanted, and that's what I accomplished. So yeah, it was a very exciting time. It was very neat.
Mhm. Yeah. That is something that I like have found myself too. And I think this is a opportunity that many people don't realize is, and many people do know this, but when you launch a new program, it brings in new people. It brings in new followers. It brings in new prospects. It brings in new leads, people that you've never met before. And part of that is because you're posting more, right? You'll probably have a new freebie that you put out. So now you got these new leads coming in, and you're shifting your content to what it usually is to something a little more exciting. And that draws in new, I hate to say blood, but it draws in new blood, right? It draws in like that's not the right word, but it draws in like some excitement and some and curiosity. And so
Yeah.
this has happened to me too, where I launched something and out of the blue, I've got 3 people that signed up that I've never met before. They weren't following me, they weren't on my email list. Perhaps they came across one of my reels, right? And then maybe did some stalking or binging on my content and then bought the program just like that. So this is the beautiful thing about like a really great launch content strategy because that can happen, right? Yeah. Okay. So
Awesome.
I wanted to ask you a couple more questions. But there was somebody that had a question in here. I'm just going to go back to it before. And it was something about launching a product. Oh my gosh, there's so many. Oh, there it is. I need my glasses for this. It says when you relaunch, do you launch as a new product or relaunch 2.0? So either or, like if it's a existing program and you just want to do a live launch, you can do that. So you can have a hybrid model where it's open all the time, and then maybe a couple of times a year or a few times a year you do a special promotion or a special launch. Usually when you do that, you're going to have a some kind of like extra bonus there that you never had before, something that brings in more people. Because if it's open all the time and then you have a live launch, there has to be a reason why people are coming in at that time. So probably like a special bonus module that you have. Um, this happened a lot in like September and August, and like before that with AI, you saw in like ChatGPT like taking over. People were relaunching programs like 2.0 version of their program, and that what they did was they added ChatGPT as a tool to leverage like to make things go faster or their processes go easier in their program, right? You saw that a lot, right? Same thing with Instagram, right?
Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yeah. So people would add on something and then relaunch it again, right? So, but you don't have to do like you can just have it open always too, right? You can do both. So I hope that answers your question. Um, okay. Sorry. So I was going to go back and ask you a couple more things. Let's see if we had any other questions in here. There's a lot of people on here. Oh yeah, what kind of like, so you said you're going to thinking you might do another launch in the future. So what are you thinking like in terms of like what lessons did you learn? Like what will you probably do again? And like what would you change? Or what do you see like an opportunity for growth or something like that?
So I would not do it as long as I did
Yeah.
it. You mentioned earlier 4 weeks, but I did, it turned out with delays and everything, it ended up being 7 weeks when I looked back at it. Because
Really?
we added in, yeah, I added in a week there where we
Oh,
pushed off, delayed. So we originally were saying like 6 weeks, and then we pushed it another week, so it was like 7 weeks. So it was a very long launch. I would not do that again. I would change that
yeah.
to 4 weeks. So that was a lesson. I would also probably go ahead and plan out the month in advance. We were doing like a week in advance. I would do the whole month, just so that's off my plate. Like
Yeah.
then I can focus on the other things, because the way that I did it this time, it was like I focused on the content and that weekend before, and then posted it that next week, and everything to me felt, like, I mean, it was good, but it felt a little rushed on my end. So I feel
Yeah.
like slowing that down, or taking that back a step, planning out a launch a month in advance, planning out the content a month forward, would add a lot of benefit to the launch itself, making the launch shorter. That's the second thing.
Yeah.
But other than that, I think that just fine tuning. Now that I've been through it once, I think it would just from there be fine tuning the little things along the way. I took a lot of notes during the
Good.
launch.
That's
So
good.
as I was going through things, I made notes on days of this worked well, this did not, people like this, that sort of thing. That way, in a, 6 months from now, when I do another launch, I'm not looking back through, well, what date did I do that? And looking for content that I posted during that time. I have it written down on my calendar of the day that I posted, what worked, what didn't, what the overall sense of what people were saying in my comments were, so that it makes my next launch a little bit easier on both the topics and the feel that I want to get from my content during the launch.
That's so smart. That's so smart. It's so good that you did that. That you were just taking notes and like, what was working and not working or like what you enjoyed or what. Yeah. So in terms of the launch timing, yeah, like I think you could do like 2 to 3 weeks, right?
Yeah.
Not, yeah, you could just like 2 weeks could work as well. Because your audience is so like you already post like 5 days a week, is it that you post?
Yes.
So yeah, and some people only post like 3 days a week. So then it requires a little bit more time, right? Because you're not posting as often and your audience is slightly more cold. But yeah, um, that's awesome. Yeah, I am excited to see you not post, sorry, launch again. Um, and I think that like what you were saying about like how you would just do kind of a month in advance. Yeah, I agree because now that I'm launching, I do the same thing. It is just like when you're learning how to do it. Like if I said to somebody, here is your like launch plan for the month. Here's like the content you have to create for one whole month. Now go do it. And like understanding like what's involved in each phase, it's like that would be very overwhelming.
Yeah.
Um, but now that you know it, it's like, okay, I know how to do this. And then you can just like, and you create content like a machine anyway. You're so fast. I've seen her work. She's like, I got my 5 posts for the week and she did it in like half a day. And I'm not like that at all. Like, it takes me forever to do one post. But I'm learning. She's teaching me. Somebody says it's 5 days a week post. Is 5 days a week posting good? I think that's for you, Ginger.
Uh it is, as long as you can keep up the quality during that 5 days. I mean, the more you have, the more you put yourself out there, the more eyeballs that could see your content. But you have to remember that you're building a reputation at the same time. And if you have 5 pieces of content that are generic, kind of cliche kind of content, then you're not building a good reputation. So it's all in your capacity. If you can do 5 days a week and you have lots of content ideas and you're able to push out quality content, then that's great. If you have other business, things that you need to be doing, other things to focus on, and you're not quite there yet, you're still having, you can't get 5 pieces of content out in half a day, and still be able to do your other business things, then perhaps slow that down to maybe 2 or 3 times a week.
Yeah. Yeah. So I only post 3 times a week, sometimes just 2 times a week, depending on how busy I am. But
Yeah.
that's because I have a service-based business. I literally am working on client projects like all the time. Not that like other people don't have projects, but I just find that like sometimes like a done for you service provider like me has way less time. Um, but when I'm launching, if I'm getting ready to launch, I immediately increase my posting time. So that's a number, that's the rule, is because you can't just have like a 2 day a week posting cadence and launch. Like you're not going to get very many sales. So
Yeah.
you do have to increase it for your launch. Yeah, to warm up people and stuff. Okay. So I think that's basically it. So can you share a little bit about the program? So before we wrap up, in case anybody doesn't know about it, you can like shamelessly plug it, describe it.
It it's a 4-month, 120-day program. Um, And I help with Instagram growth, Instagram marketing, how to grow, not only grow your business on Instagram, but use marketing strategies to attract, nurture, and convert your audience on your community. I focus highly on community building. So it's not just any audience that you are growing, it is your community, your ideal audience for your business, which makes you more successful on Instagram, so that when it is time to sell and do a launch, you have people who in your community who are actually going to be interested in what you have to offer.
And it's an amazing program. Not just because I helped create it, but because the content, like the expertise coming from Ginger is like amazing. Like it's absolutely mind blowing what's all the things that are in this program. I learned so much. And I have, I'm on Instagram and I'm going to be honest, I've created other programs for other creators about social media. And what Ginger teaches in this program is like guaranteed going to improve your, not just your, how many followers you have, but how many conversations you're having, like your connections and ultimately your conversions. So I can't say any more good things about the program. I think it's an excellent program.
Thank
Um,
you.
yeah. So that's all I had for you, just some questions. I'm so excited to see this program kind of grow in your business and, see you have more students come in and experience, what you've done. It's great.
I am excited too. And I appreciate your help throughout this whole thing. I know it was a massive undertaking. I don't know how you got anything else done while you were working with me.
Yeah.
So I know I kept you busy, busy, busy,
Time
but yeah, it was
time
fun.
management. Time management. Oh, there's another question here. Sorry, one more question, and then we'll hop off. Community building. This is for you, Ginger. Community building is the tough job.
It is. It takes building your community is going to take time. The first thing that you need to understand is your target audience, your dream audience. You need to understand who you are speaking to if you want to create content that relates to them.
Yeah.
Your biggest thing when building a community is to make people feel like like they belong in your community. They belong because they resonate with you, they identify with you, they can trust you because they feel like you understand them and understand what they're going through. The only way to do that is to start at the very beginning, understanding your ideal audience and their pain points, their struggles, what they're dealing with, what keeps them up at night, all of these things. Then another thing is to create content around that, of course, and then to engage. That I talk a lot about engaging on Instagram, just because that's how we build deeper connections and deeper relationships with people. And not in a spammy, salesy kind of way, but more in a friendly, conversational way to again get people to trust you and make them feel welcome and like they belong right alongside.
You had a post about that today.
I did. I did,
Yeah.
yeah.
Go check out her post. Okay, awesome. Thank you so much, Ginger. Yeah, and that's it. So we'll see you. We'll see you, Ginger, but we'll see everybody else like another time. If you are in Ginger's world and not in my world, please do give me a follow. And if you ever need help with building out your course or launching it, definitely get in touch. You can look at my content and check out my links and all that. And that's it. Everyone have a great day and have a great week.
All right. Thank you.
Okay. Bye-bye. Take care.
Bye.